Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
On July 4th, 1962, I found myself in the lost and found of mankind. Just because something finds its way to the lost and found doesn't mean that it wants to be there. Just because something finds its way to the lost and found doesn't mean that the person who lost it doesn't care for that lost item.
You are writing moments that people will learn from, grow from, and heal through for thousands of years. Together, we are co-authoring a unique moment in time. That DNA, those fingerprints, they're going to be gone. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But it is your story that they will tell for thousands of years, but only if you leave it. Things that do not serve you must go. The longer you wait, the more time you give them to trick you into serving them. 22 homes in foster care, everything I wore as a scar, as a shame, things that started like Velcro on my spirit. After just a few months, then years, then decades, I had believed myself into believing that they were indelible tattoos. Sometimes we have to be broken down to appreciate the view once we start getting up. I want you to leave this place and know that you have been changed. Why? How do I know it's true? Because each of you has just changed.
Good morning to you. There's the bell of purpose. Hey, I hope you didn't slip on a banana peel and land up in here today. No, you didn't. You are here on purpose, and we're going to move through this hour with purpose. Can I get an amen? Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. Still channeling Louise Jefferson, but it's getting better. Long haul COVID ain't no joke. Can I get an amen? I joined a long haul COVID Facebook group yesterday that my doctor recommended, where a lot of people are finding solutions to some of the things that are hanging on. Hope you don't have to deal with it. That's all I got to say. Welcome. It's a great day. Today is the last live show of the week. I'm just giving you a heads up. Be a rerun tomorrow and also on Monday for the end of summer holiday. What are you going to do? Are you staying home? Are you hitting the road? Staycation, vacation? Which is it? Put it in the comments. Nosy people like me like to know. What was that bell? Oh, yeah, that's the bell of purpose. It is here to serve as a reminder, an opportunity, if you will, that when you hear the bell ring, just like the bell has a ring to it, so does the truth, right? So I just know that we gather our content nowadays while we're doing 100 other things. And I would hate for anyone, including myself, to miss some of the wonderful things that come through here running across our front yards during this hour. Because we're too busy. So the bell is just a heads up that there's some truth out there. You might want to back that thing up and take it with you. So there it is. Also at this time, help me welcome, you know who she is. She's my sidekick. I refer to her as my version of Ed McMahon. This is Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. She's been with me all 6 years of this show. Love you, Lucy. I want to tell you guys, big day today. My latest magazine cover comes out this afternoon in the digital form. The newsstand copies will be available September 5th. So I'll let you guys know where you can go to buy the hard copy. Courageous Man Magazine out of Los Angeles. Thank you, publisher Talisha Berry, for honoring me on the cover of your magazine. So got some story in there. This cover story is different than any of the others you may have read in the other magazines over the last couple of years. This one's a little different, bearing just a little bit more of my soul to you. So I hope if you get it, you enjoy it. Let me know when you do. What else? Well, I'm gonna just get to it. We got a great show today. You know what it means when I wave the flag. It means we got another veteran in the house. Yes, we do. Always proud to have our veterans. Speaking of veterans, you guys, good news about our iHeartRadio podcast. Jax Young, country music star out of Nashville, and I. You guys know we are now in our second quarter of License for Love, the heartbeat of relationship conversation. And we are so proud. Thank you all for all of your support. We just got the news about a week ago, actually. I'm slow rolling it, getting it to you. I apologize. But our numbers have increased by 100% in the last month. So we're so grateful to you. Keep it going. Let's continue to serve each other and be of service to each other. Can I get an amen? So, a couple times this week, the guests have had something within their story. And most times it's how it is, whether we talk about it or not. And I'm speaking of mental health. And today's guest, Walter, his friends call him Walt McKINLEY. I think his mother's probably the only one who calls him Walter. Walter Eugene, or whatever his middle name is. I doubt if it's Eugene. He is a mental health champion. So we're going to hear about that. He's also a number one best-selling author with a wonderful book we're going to talk about today, Monsters in My House. I got chills just talking about it because quite a story. He does a lot of things, but, never been here, first timer. So you know what we do? We roll out the virtual red carpet. We pour our hearts into the conversation, and we put some hearts on the screen, because that's our virtual way of applauding as he comes in. And here he comes. I see him. There he is right there. Walt McKINLEY on the way, y'all. Get ready. That was a hot little ditty you walked in on. How are you?
I'm doing awesome, Lauren. Thanks. I love the whole entire intro, the bell, the slipping on a banana peel, because I didn't slip on one, but I did eat one before we came on the show this morning. So I'm excited to join you. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome. And you just reminded me, I left my spotted banana upstairs. I gotta be better on that. Yeah, the bell of purpose. Look, it's huge. Right?
I love that. Yes.
It's a real thing. Yeah, we're glad you're here. Listen, I usually start with someone who's not been here before by just dipping out, giving you a couple minutes to kind of one-on-one with the audience, tell them where you're at in the world. and fill in some of the blanks that I left, because I know you can tell them better than I can show them. So I'm going to let you do that, and then I'll come on back in and we'll get started. How's that sound?
Awesome. Sounds great, Lauren. Thanks. I appreciate it.
Of course.
What's going on, everybody? How are you guys doing this morning? Robert Booker, I see you down there. James, I see you. Lori, Sherry, it's awesome to be here with everybody today. So to give you a little bit more about me, first and foremost, I'm a family man. I've been married 23 years, together with my wife 26. I have two incredible, amazing teenage daughters. So yes, I'm a girl dad. I just took one to college, so that's been a lot of fun for me and a change of the guard in my own home. I'm a retired naval intelligence officer. I was in the military for 20 years. I was in corporate America for 5 years as an executive in a Fortune 3. And I don't say those things to brag. I only say those things to say those were great, fulfilling, professional things that I did. However, about a year and a half ago, probably about a year and 8 months ago now, I chose to step into my purpose, what God's purpose is for my life. And that's to teach people their history doesn't define their legacy, and where they started doesn't have to be where they finish in life. And even if you've had a massively traumatic past like I have, you can still overcome that. And more importantly, the triumph and the comeback that happens when you really work through those traumas in life really do not only change the landscape for you, but it also changes the landscape for everybody around you that deserves that love and best version of you. So I can't wait to get into this today with you guys, with Lauren, and really talk about how to live an extraordinary life, even if you've come, like I always say, I was went through hell and was chased by the devil. But I'm out here living my best life and happier than ever. So I'm just excited to be here today with you, Lauren.
I know that's right. Listen, before we get into it, when you said intelligence officer, that's a job title that automatically is a big set of shoes to fill, because of the intelligence part. I'm people like, oh, so you're intelligent, huh? I wouldn't want this. Right, but
Let's not go that far.
Well, tell us what that is, because when I heard it, I thought that ain't nothing but a spy. So is an intelligence officer a spy? What is it? What do they do?
So that is one of the jobs of an intelligence officer. There's a lot of different facets that are part of that. I was part of F-18 squadrons. I was an intelligence officer on aircraft carriers, but I also did do human intelligence type stuff where we have gaps in the Department of Defense that we need to know about. You work with the CIA, you work with FBI, talk to people that are immigrating to the United States, or you do some things overseas in order to try to get some information to fill those gaps. So I have some fun stories, Lauren, you and I could talk about sometime. And it was an amazing career, one where I can ebb and flow to expand my skill set by never doing the same job. When I transferred to a new organization, I always pick something new to challenge myself to elevate my skill set.
You know what? One time when I lived in Las Vegas, there was a trainer at the health club I went to, and he kept changing his hair. And I would you had a little cafe there, and I would notice he'd be talking to people, and sometimes his accent would slip into all these other ones. And I said, because there was a guy there that worked for the police department, and I said, I think that guy's a spy. This was right after 9/11 in that year, honestly. And do you know that guy checked into him, and all of a sudden he disappeared? Next thing you know, I get a call. I had to go to the Clark County Detention Center. First time I walked in through the front door back then. And they took me to his cell, which was off where nobody was. And they go, is this the guy? And I was like, and he's looking at me through the window. And I was like, I started to say, I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, and guess what? He was.
Oh, wow.
He was a terrorist.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I'm not kidding you. He'd be talking. He'd sound like he was from Argentina one second, and then slip into this Cockney brogue. And I was like, and I saw his face when somebody at the table with him said something about the United States and our strength, and he got instant angry and then brought it back to, I'll never forget that. So anyway, I think I got one last spy question. Do you own a spy tuxedo? Is that do they give you a spy tuxedo like James Bond?
Oh Lord, don't I wish? Let me tell you, because I went into the intelligence community thinking James Bond, and although it's not that amazing, or what, at least it wasn't for me. I do own a tuxedo. It just isn't a spy tuxedo. But you know what? Next time I'm out, I might call it that.
So you never drove one of those cars where guns come out of the headlights and all that?
Oh no, 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 I didn't. But I
Okay,
did get to shoot some guns off an aircraft carrier, which was pretty awesome.
just tell us, because is it true? I mean, I don't want you to get in trouble or nothing, but do they really have spies like James Bond or like that other spy movie, for those English guys? I forget the name of it. But do they really have people that get to do that? Is that real?
I am sure that they do in the CIA, but in the Department of Defense, no, we do not get to do those type of amazing things.
Okay.
CIA is like the big brother for everybody. They kind of control what's happening outside.
Wow. Then you mentioned that you were in corporate. What kind of work did you do? How did you segue from being an intelligence officer? What did you go into in the corporate arena?
Well, for me, I love leadership. I love building the next generation of leaders because at some point we got to be able to do that handoff for people and watching the development, whether it's healing from trauma or whether it's developing those skills to move somebody's career forward. For me, is what fulfills my soul, like really helping people. And so, I worked as all the way from an assistant director to an executive at EDP and another company. I did client servicing and so call center. So I do a lot around talking around burnout and how to build mentally healthy cultures and how to
Mentally.
really, as a leader, take the responsibility for the impact you're making both personally and professionally on those people that you're in charge of. And
Okay.
because your decision today will affect where their career is at 10 years from now. And I
Yeah.
don't think enough people take that level of heart that you need to pour into people to help move them forward and give them the opportunities to improve their own life along the way.
Right. Now, when I check out people's social media or they send a bio or a resume or whatever they send in, I always pay close attention to how they lay out uh, what they want us to know about them, their credentials or whatnot. And I find it interesting that of all your accomplishments, the very first thing you lead with is that you're a mental health champion. Talk about that. How did you become that? What door got kicked in on you? I'm assuming it was when you're young, a
Yeah.
kid. And then also, this is a two-parter. Talk about that. And is that what led you to the military? Because that is the case for a lot of us. Our options are so limited that that's how we get out of one situation, hopefully stepping into a better one. So, what was it like for you?
It was, and I got to tell you, well, I'm sure we'll get into my story, but I endured horrific abuse as a kid. I mean, parents, step parents, real parents. Didn't matter who I was with until I was almost 16 years old. I was thrown in basements, chained to beds. I mean, really horrific things happened to me. But what
Torture.
I have, it was torture. I mean, it really was.
Didn't you say something about the fingernails?
I did. Unfortunately, my foster mother at 3 years old. This is really my first memory that I talk about in my book. She held her body on me and put splinters underneath my fingernails. And she was a woman who obviously was in pain, who had been hurt herself, who was continuing those cycles. And she used to lock my sister and I in closets, chain us to beds, and that horrific moment when her own pain overcame her in a way that she just tortured me. And so for me, it was living this life of desperation, surviving my childhood, and realizing as I testified against my father on the witness stand at 16 years old for the abuse he did to me,
Mm.
that I did have power in my story. I did have a voice. I didn't need to be silenced anymore, but I needed to also heal myself so I wouldn't be this angry young man that I started to become. And oh, I
Mm-hmm.
was going to say, last thing is,
No.
and I realized through sharing my story with people, and not the whole thing at once, sharing my story with people, it gave them the power to share theirs and create a safe space. And I knew that I had to do something more, even after 5 years in corporate America and all the success. I just wasn't fulfilled. I was missing my purpose. And God slammed doors in my face and brought me to my knees so that I would get up and listen to him and walk down the door at the end of the hall that he had opened for me all along.
Oh yeah, definitely get him in that meat. Can I get an amen? There we go. So Excuse me. I definitely relate to that. I remember once because they moved me around at first. I wasn't even in the same state. I moved me from Michigan to Raytown, Missouri, and in that foster home there was a woman who there was a little girl, Sharice. I'll never forget. She was 6 years old, and the woman would hit her with a piece of wood on her forefinger so hard that her fingernails literally came off, and I'll never forget it. So I can't even tell you. I'm saying this to you all out there. When you hear it, trust me, no matter what you think you feel behind that comment or statement, it's nowhere near close to the true experience. So I want to talk about, okay, let's put a name and a face on your particular, what you feel is your particular mental health challenge, because I believe there are, in many cases, how do I put it? I guess that was superpowers embedded within those things. I believe in mental wellness, mental wealth instead of I just change it out. I change it out because my ADHD served me well today. Trust me. So talk about that. What did they say was wrong with you when you started understanding what mental illness or mental health was or is? What's it look like in your world, Walt?
Yeah, for me, I think there was some disassociation of emotions and the reality of what happened, or at least how I felt about it. There
Mhm.
was a lot of anger. There was a lot of shame I felt. There was guilt for the moments when I had an opportunity to tell when I was younger and I didn't tell. And there was, frankly, a lot of hatred I had as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, 19-year-old young man for the people that abused me.
Yeah.
And I found a story, Lauren, I haven't said this to anybody yet. My Aunt Diana, it was my life hero who saved my life.
Mm.
She sent me a box of stuff because she moved and we're getting ready to downsize in our own home because our kids are getting older. And I can only find one page of this. I read a story I wrote to myself at 17. And
Ooh.
I'm not joking you. It is not verbatim, but is in the same context of the way that I wrote the beginning of my book. And I don't ever remember writing this story. It's always been in me. And part of that
Huh?
was that life was happening for me
Yeah.
and not to me, and that my life was going to be different and I deserve more. And so so wild how your mind is already there, but through the healing journey, and this is why I teach the 4 keys to living an extraordinary life. Through the healing journey, you do expose superpowers
Yep.
that you didn't even know that you had
Yep.
when you were just surviving. I mean, it is a different mindset that you get to, and it's an extraordinary life when you do.
It really is. You guys out there that follow me on Facebook, you may have noticed earlier this week, I posted the stage from the back of the auditorium of where I first stood, sharing my story of 22 homes and all that, most of what happened in there for the very first time. It was looking at that picture that came up as a 7-year memory the other day was very cathartic for me. And I posted it because of that, because I had no way of knowing. And I said in there, I was completely transparent that I literally almost ran off the stage before my turn came to speak 3 times. And I'm so grateful to everything greater than myself that always knows better than I do for whispering words of comfort to my spirit that allowed me to harness the courage that always was my birthright and start speaking my truths, because it unbound so many things in my world. And so if you are out there and you're still hesitant, do what Walt said, write something down, just start the process. I guarantee you, you will not regret it. So let me ask this, Walt. So when you found this letter, because that happened to me probably about 4 months ago,
Oh,
going through,
wow.
when we were getting ready for our 5.0 garage sale about 5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, something fell out of something. And it was one of those little journal things. And I had started it when I was homeless in the Salvation Army shelter. And when I read how I was speaking to myself, uh, it just amazed me. I was like, who was that? how, I did not even realize the strength I had when I felt I was at my lowest,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that, though. When you read that letter and it felt like another person.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you had it there. It might be too personal, but tell us what it did for you.
I'm like, man, I'm looking at it. I was like, well, where'd I put it? My wife came in here and cleaned up my mess.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
it,
No,
it meant,
come down here. Ugh.
so there's two letters I found in my life that kind of shocked me back into the moment from when I wrote them. And one was years ago after I had reconciled with my dad. I needed my birth certificate for the Navy for something. So I had come home to visit, and I found the suicide letter that I almost wrote myself, that I wrote at 13, when I almost took my own life, when he had left me at home for the weekend and told me he loved his girlfriend and not me. And it transformed me to that moment of being that little boy. And I had so much healing I still needed to do at that point. And this letter kind of did the same thing, but in a different way. Because to me, it showed me how unbreakable my spirit really was, even when I still had a lot of healing that I needed to do. And I think
Right.
there's so many people out there that are living in quiet desperation and wearing a mask,
Mm.
and they're so fearful of making the choice to embrace the fear of the unknown that's on the other side of that healing journey. And this is what I love about stories and books and the letter, and watching your goal cast and hearing your story too, Lauren.
Oh, thank you.
The power is in people like you and I giving somebody the belief, not inspiration, not motivation, the belief that
Yeah.
their history doesn't define their legacy, the belief that they can use their trauma as rocket fuel for their life, because somebody out there is looking for Lori's story, Robert's story, Sherry's story. They're not looking for mine and yours. We might be
Right.
awesome. They might be inspired. Oh, that's
Right.
awesome.
But
But
that's
they're
not
going to
one
tell
that's
their story,
quickly.
right? It's going to be like the manifest that changed their life. And when we really start to think about it in that way and start to heal, you talked about superpowers, and I love it, because the last key to living an extraordinary life is exposing your superpowers. Empathy, the grit, the resilience, the compassion, the effort, the hard work, the ability to really love people in a different way gets unlocked in such a profound way during the healing journey. And
Mhm.
I want, and I know you want, people to know that when you get in that tunnel of darkness you feel like is never going to end, and you go around the corner and you realize that there's abundant light on the other side, and people like you and I are there cheering you on to get there. Oh, it's magic. It's magic, bro.
Yeah, it is. I was sitting here just thinking, because I told my husband Brian, who's a therapist, psychotherapist, and so I really have to plan a talk.
Right.
But I told him, I said I wanted to have a talk at the end of the workday today, and because just in the last 24 hours, I found some triggers that I did not know were still there. And I think that's an important part of the conversation, so that people don't anticipate. When you go and you start, the healing it's like a gradient thing. It like blends from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And the healing, when we think about it, truly never ends. And it never should. And what I mean by that is, as I heal, I am now able to heal others. And then they are able to heal others, so on and so forth. So the healing really never ends. But know this, whatever the trauma, wherever it happened, whenever it happened, know this. It didn't ride alone. It's too big of a coward. So what am I talking about that came with it? A future blessing that was born into the process of becoming at that very same moment. We're going to take a short break, 1 minute. And when we return, we're going to hear from Walt McKINLEY about this book, Monsters in My House. When we return, great time to share out the broadcast. We'll be right back.
Hello, hello, hello. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt completely lost? Seeking purposeful direction that could and should propel your mission within your divine journey to that next level, but still it hasn't happened. Well, my name is Lauren Michaels Harris, and I'm the founder of P3, the Journey Series. People come to me because they're wounded. Many are scared, and even there are those who are bruised simply because they feel that they are increasingly, for whatever reason, losing their ability to dream. Now, this P3 program is not for a person who's just looking to start a business, no, but rather for those of you out there who have been on your journey and you've been navigating within your divine purpose, but you still desire to elevate to that level that you have not reached yet. If this is appealing, if this describes you, then I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear your story. So use the link below to get registered for your free seat at P3, the Journey Series. And let's get started, one story at a time. I'll see you inside. Click the link.
Welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris, and our guest today is WALT McKINLEY. Walt, I want to get right into it, the second half of the interview. The book, first of all, Monsters in My House. Take us back to when you finally decided, because I know how we play with it, put it up, take it out, put it up, take it out. The idea of actually taking our transparency to a new level. Talk about how you were able to actually pull the trigger on this, because a lot of people that have stories that involve, especially family members, people in their lives that are still alive, or they're protecting someone's memory. I don't want, the family's going to be pissed off if what happens in this house stays in this house, that kind of shit.
Yeah, facts.
Talk about the struggle to even get it going and then just take us on in to this wonderful story.
So I'm sitting in corporate America. It's in the middle of COVID. I'm working 12 to 14-hour days. I'm doing literally a job that they've hired 3 executives to do now, that I'm gone, grinding myself away and feeling this angst of like, there's more in life. Seeing Facebook posts from 10 years ago, 4 years ago, literally, where I knew there was more to my purpose. And my wife has been telling me to write a book for like a decade. I've been speaking, but wanted to really be a inspirational speaker for 2 decades. So I get to this point in corporate America where I'm having heart issues. I'm having health problems because I'm just working myself to death, literally. And I have a nervous breakdown. Now, I've been in some stressful situations in the military, never had anxiety, never had a breakdown before this moment, never had one since. When I talked about God brought me to my knees, this was the moment for me. And I'm the provider for my family. My wife has always supported my career. So I had to make a decision at that moment to lose 80% of my income to go chase this purpose that I feel like I have on my life. But I couldn't have done it without my amazing spouse. And this is where, having a significant other that supports you does really matter. And she gave me a hug and she said, because I thought I was having a heart attack, and I went to the hospital and they checked me in and they did all this stuff and found out it was a panic attack. And she said, if you die, I'm selling everything. All the things, nothing means anything to me except to have you. I want you. Our kids need you. It's time. It's time to like, screw it, babe. Let's just freaking go for it. I've been talking about this for decades. There'll never be a perfect time. It's time. Like I've been begging you to write this book. You wanted to be a speaker. Let's do it. And I said, you know what? I can't continue to live my life without stepping into my purpose fully. And I did. And I wrote my book, and it took me about 2 months to write 326 pages of heart and soul, then about 4 months of editing. But about 6 total months from start to finish, because it was really just everything that I had on my soul that I wanted to say, from when I was silenced to when I knew my story held power and I knew it could help other people, and to getting it out into the world. So it's been just a beautiful journey.
I'm excited to hear that because, myself, I have not pulled the trigger on that yet. I know that's a scab I'm not ready to pick yet. I hope to one day before I transition, but I haven't yet. So I'm always interested in how a person found that, because it takes so much to really do it. So I wanted to ask, what came first, the content between the pages or the title on the front of the book?
Definitely the content. I wrote about 3/4 of the book before I ever wrote the title. And I will tell you, I think it's important for people to understand what the title means to me.
Yeah.
So when I was a boy, my stepfather, part of his punishment at 7 and 8 years old would be to throw me in a dark, damp, dusty basement in Indiana, just cinder blocks. It wasn't a finished basement. And he would also take a scary Halloween mask and throw it down there with me, which came to life in my imagination.
Oh.
It became a monster living down in the stairs with me, this werewolf. And at the top of the steps, you'll see a silhouette of him in the book. And in the box, you'll see this mask. And I really did have to choose between two monsters in this moment, the one at the top of the stairs and the one that came to life at the bottom. But it really is a euphemism for all the monsters that I lived with that were in such egregious pain. They were uncontrollably beat and torture me.
I'm sitting here going, usually I'm formulating the next question, but I was so stuck. The visual is so powerful. Boy. So Walt, how where did you start? I mean that because I've read books,
Yeah.
and yes, Lori Whitney, I read your book, The Stranger. I did. You have to come on the show. I think I asked you once. You were scared to or something, but if you're ready, we can go back there and revisit. Sorry, I had to get that out. But how did you know where to start? Some people will write a book and they'll say, it all began when I turned 18. No, it didn't.
Right.
You know, you'd be in the Smithsonian for being the oldest person ever born at 18, came out of the womb. No, it began before we even got here for most of us, by choices that we did not make for ourselves, through choices, rather. So, well, talk about the experience. How did you continually, were there triggers? Did you have night terrors? See, that's the stuff that I'm still not sure of, which is a big reason why I haven't done that myself yet, done this yet, like you have. So talk about what it took and what you found when you said grit. I believe that had a lot to do with you getting through this, not going around it, not digging underneath it, not getting over it, going through it. Talk about that. How cathartic was this book process to the you are today?
It was amazingly cathartic to me. First, a lot of people have asked, like, when you wrote the book, what did you feel like? And I felt like I was like, damn, like I made it through that. Wow. Like, because here's what happened as I wrote the book. I just took voice notes. My sister and I took a trip to Southern California to go to a lot of the places that we were beaten as children that we can remember. I mean, I moved 14 times in the first 16 years of my life that I can actually remember, much
Right.
less the ones that I don't. And so we went back to all these different places. I went to see my uncle in San Diego who remembers some of the places we lived. And just to generate memories, just to generate, oh my God, I remember Dad used to send us to the
Remember
store for beer
yourself.
and cigarettes,
Yeah.
and we used to do laundry at 6 years old at this laundromat right here, and it brought it back.
Exactly.
Right?
Stop right there for a second. Listen, you guys, that is so important. You hear me talk about it, maybe you don't, but it's in the master class. How important it was for me to learn that there's two forms of remember. There's, oh yeah, I remember when we went to Cedar Point, but da. But then there's where we do like a pen or a highlighter, and we remember ourselves to the original implement, the original space. And that's a place where a lot of us don't want to go because we ran out of there because the damn house was on fire. But when you return, you have become a different person. You're not that same one who ran out of the burning building. You come back and you find your birthrights, all the reasons it had to be. So that remembering part, you can do that. If you're trying to get to a place, find somebody in your family with a photo. I tell my clients, who was your best friend in third grade? Who lived across the street? What color was your refrigerator? What car was in your driveway? Because then they start, and there was a David Cassidy poster on my wall, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to remember yourself to the moments. Keep going, Walt.
And what was cool about when I wrote the book, because I did 4 times through the book, what I recommend to people is, start with voice to text in your phone. Write down, and you could do that on Apple phones, at least I know, in the notes section.
Yeah.
And then what I did is I just started writing stories. I didn't say, okay, I need to make this thing continuous and make it mesh together. I just wrote the core stories that I remembered from my childhood after taking this big trip with my sister. So the first time I wrote my book, great. I went back and I started rewriting it. So there were some parts I thought to myself, Lauren, like, what? Well, I don't even know what I was trying to say. What was this sentence that I was trying to say? But every time I went back through 4 times in a row, a front start to finish, I didn't try to go edit in the middle. I remembered different pieces of the story. I could remember being thrown in the basement. I remembered the second time through, I remembered what sitting on the wooden steps felt like. the third time through, I remembered what putting my back against the cinder block wall felt like. The fourth time through, I remembered how I really felt. I remembered how cold I was. I remember being brought to the brink of my sanity in that moment in that basement. So every time it was like I had the core of the story built bigger every time. So it
Mhm.
allowed my brain to attach to different memories that I didn't remember the first time that I wrote it.
Be-
And it's
because even
beautiful when you do that.
right, but then even then, I think that happens because anyway, in my world, because I was 9 when it started, um, and what is greater than me took me out of the moment that first night with the first sexual abuser, just closed me inside of a room. I
Yeah.
know the carpet in there, even though it was dark. I know that place still
Mhm.
today. I know that place because I remembered myself to it. Um, and talk about that uh, because with mental illness and wellness and all of those components, I think it's important that people understand so they can get to the place where they know you were never alone. There was
Yeah.
always something working on your behalf, whatever you ascribe to as greater than thyself. So, what was it like, Walt, when you were right there? And I know that feeling, but it right almost like, I mean, there are times I can't chew spearmint gum. I can't eat anything with spearmint because my first abuser chewed spearmint gum
Mm.
all the time. And when I first got married, Brian will tell you, we'd be on our way to Michigan to the lake house, we'd be in the car stuck in traffic, and I'd have to open the door to the car because it permeated with that
Yeah.
just came out of nowhere, a trigger, and overwhelming, and I'd wrench right there out of the car. It is that powerful. So
Yes.
talk about some of those things. What did you do to knock them out TKO once and for all and banish them to
I,
a
so,
place where
so
you send things that do not serve you?
yeah, so for me, like the prologue of the book, kind of that hook story that brings people in, I talk about hearing my stepfather's footsteps coming down the hall and those big steel-toed boots. And I could tell by the way he opened the front door whether he was drunk.
Uh-huh.
And I could there was 10 steps and I could hear it one, two, boom,
New.
boom, boom. And you can hear these steps coming down. And me at that age, knowing like he didn't come to my room unless I was about to get beat. And so or get thrown in the basement, as he elevated his abuse to me. And I can't tell you how many people that's resonated with, that hearing the footsteps of their abuser coming into their door. And so what I realized in this moment is as I've really transitioned my mindset to being life happened for me versus to me,
Mhm.
and because I've done the healing, because I feel the power, I'm not a survivor. I'm not a victim. I didn't just make it. I'm a freaking warrior from the shit that I've been through. Like
Okay.
I am powerful. My story. That's why I wear this. My story is powerful, and getting people to own the power of the things that have happened for them to lead them to who they are today. Because of every experience, even the most horrific ones, I can do what I'm doing today. But until I healed, I didn't really grasp the power of that. I just knew my wife, my future children didn't deserve a broken version of me. And I was so scared of repeating the generational cycle of abuse onto my family that I just like ran through the fear with everything I had. And in that fearful place was my trauma. And I ran that shit over. And I've been looking out the windshield of life ever since because trauma does not get tired. It will chase you until the day you die,
Sure
and it
will.
will find you. You cannot hide from it. But once you embrace that, once you run it over for one last time and realize, you know what, I'm a freaking warrior from this stuff
Right.
that's happened to me. Your life changes. And then you not only save your own life, but you start to save other people's with your story. Maybe not in a book or Lauren, like you, like goal cast in a grandiose way. Maybe it's the one, just the one
In
person
the
that
grocery
needs your
store line,
story. Yes.
you know, sitting next to someone on an airplane. I know I've been touched by fellow travelers, strangers.
Hmm.
The Bible says many of us have entertained angels unaware. So and we are angels for each other. So
Yes.
so Walt, do you have the book there? Do you have something from
I
it?
do.
I
Hmm.
would love for you to share some of it with our viewers, and then we're because we want to make sure they know where to go get the book. I'm definitely ordering it. I'll have to read it, make sure all the lights are on and stuff, because I'm one of them scary asses. You know, I'll be like, you know. So you got something? Set it up for us. What are we going to hear here?
I do. So I'm actually going to start with the prologue story because I think in order to understand the depths of the triumph, you can't shy away from the tragedy, the trauma. And I'm a firm believer. The second thing that I teach people is to accept what happened to you for what it is. You can't ever go back and change it, but you can change what the story actually means in your life today and for tomorrow. And so this is me in the basement. Multiple times he had thrown me in the basement at this point, but this is me remembering one specific time.
Thrown,
literally thrown, like face first, because I would fight.
That's how I thought. Okay,
Yeah.
all you, take it away.
I would fight. So then I heard the familiar heavy footsteps of his steel-toed boots coming down the hall. The stomping they made immediately threw my body into fight or flight mode. There were exactly 10 steps to my room. These steps warned me and gave my mind, body, and soul time to prepare for the inevitable beating. My heart pounded as my real life Cobra commander, my stepdad, came to my room. 1, 2, 3, 4. My mind raced in terror. I prayed that Duke was here to protect me. After all, Duke were G.I. Joes, by the way. After all, if he could save the world, he could save me, right? I picked up Duke and looked at his fit physique, his gun, and the strength in his eyes. Courage incarnate. Where was my Duke when I needed him? 5, 6, 7, 8. The steps grew closer and my terror grew. I lifted my head and looked at the door in terrified anticipation. 9, 10. The intensity of the fear and the feeling of doom made the last 2 steps seem to last forever. Bam! The door slammed open and bounced off the door spring at the bottom, causing the familiar boing sound of impact. I looked up to see the dreadnought flying towards my head, and my stepdad screamed, "I told you I didn't want to see any fucking toys in the living room, ever." My reflexes kicked in like a cat. I jumped as I watched the dreadnought action figure sail towards me at slow motion, or it seemed like slow motion. I turned just fast enough to dodge the inbound missile. It flew past me in a blur, coming close enough I could hear the whistle of the wind in my ear. I turned back, and his hand struck my face, making my ears ring with a piercing buzz. The impact left me dizzy and floundering off balance. I fell on one knee. But soon I was brought back to my feet. He yanked me up by the neck like a boa constrictor. My stepdad grabbed my hair and yanked my head back. "Your ass is mine," he yelled. His hands were calloused from the construction work and seemed to cover my entire head with every smack. My knees felt like those of a baby deer struggling to propel itself forward. My eyesight blurred as tears streamed down my face. I knew what was coming, and I was terrified. I pleaded for him to let me go and professed extreme regret. "I'm sorry. I'll pick up my toys better next time. Please don't. I'm sorry, please." My begging became a litany that couldn't sway him. My voice faded away, falling on deaf ears and a black heart. I knew then what was coming next. I pled for my life. I knew a monster was waiting for me where I was about to be taken. There's a lot more from that, but I know we only have so much time.
You know, I'm going to just say, when you said it twice in there, I'm already in the middle of a beating. And then you say, "I knew what was coming." Like it came in stages. Stage 1 is this. Stage 2 is this. And I'm like, "Oh, my Lord, make it end, make it end." I wonder, what about triggers, even today?
Yeah.
I think we should talk about those things because they're for a reason. I believe triggers are the equivalent of a spiritual bathtub ring. There's some unfinished business, some necessary healing. And no matter how successful we are or happy we are, we keep filling that tub up with that fresh water, which is the joy. But somehow, no matter where you look around the bathroom, you eventually have to see that ring. And I want you to talk about that and how you deal with them, because that's a thing that a lot of people turn back at the first sight of a trigger. Go ahead.
That's right. That's right. I agree. I love that you said that. They're an opportunity to heal the places that might still need some work. And the reality is we're always healing. That
Always.
don't never stop, right?
Don't
And I'll tell you, not too long ago, I had a man who was triggered himself. And this moment, this man was coming at me in a text. Wasn't even about me. And it was a friend, and I was hurt. He texted me and he started saying some really visceral things I definitely didn't deserve. And I found out he called like 3 other people and did the same thing because he relapsed on alcohol. So he texted me this out of nowhere. So I texted him back, hey, let's jump on a phone call. I don't do these conversations over text.
Right.
And he's like, hey, fuck you, this, that. And he's just coming at me. And I'm triggered because it was the way that I was talked to as a little boy. And I'm like, my first response, my first reaction, I could say, it wasn't even a response. I'm like, you freaking coward. Like, you would not talk to me like this in person. I promise you that. And thank God he wasn't in person, because I think I would have held my control. But so then I'm sitting and I start responding. Do you ever seen the memes where it's like response and they delete it, response and they delete it? And I'm shaking, my hands are shaking like you. And I'm so pissed. And I thought, why am I pissed? It just hit me like, what? And I couldn't have done this 20 years ago, but I'm more self-aware today. So it's not that I don't get triggered, it's that I catch the trigger and it allows me to respond. So I responded with kindness. I said, hey, brother, like, I don't know where this is coming from, but I'm not going to allow you to treat me like this either. So I'm going to set some boundaries right now. And if you get it together, let me know I love you. That's all I can say to you right now. And it was really kind of hard because my pride, my ego, the trigger moment of being oppressed by all these adults in my life, these men that I wanted to I could put some hands on a man quick. And I had to like take a breath and be like, okay, this isn't about me. This is about them. But the trigger in me right now is about me. It's about a place in my heart that needs to be healed. And I thought, Lord, is this God testing me as I continue to grow in what I'm doing and I continue to affect people? There's going to be people that have hate because they're struggling. Can I take this moment and respond and elevate my life floor and my life ceiling at the same time? So I made a choice, because we have a choice when we're triggered. I made a choice to say, I'm not reacting. I'm going to actually respond to this with kindness. And then I'm going to keep moving in my day and not let it spoil the rest of my day and affect the people that love me the most that are around me negatively too. So it was a beautiful moment for me to show. I haven't had someone come at me like that in decades. So it was a beautiful moment for me.
It is. And I'm going to tell you why that's so important, everybody. As we grow into learn and earn our way into our divine purpose, we can never lose sight or digress, if you will, from being the student just because we've become the teacher. We cannot digress and forget. Here's why. Like that example you just gave, well, great example. And I have to remind myself constantly, and it is the key. The key is healing your way to where you can respond and not react. React never worked for me. Angry black man, that's what I got accused of, even when I had a right to be angry. And so I didn't know the forest from the trees. But what I'm getting at is, today with the work we all do, including all of you, we can never, I don't care who it is, mother, father, sister, brother, stranger, fellow traveler, we should never be surprised. We should live in a place of expectance when it comes to, as if you're healing, don't be surprised when you open the door to your clinic and that patient looks like the guy you just described. When you're teaching, Don't be surprised when you open the door to your classroom and the student looks like that guy you just described. That is proof that you have ascended. But you have to remember when you were in those shoes. Why? Because as we hear, not just a clever turn of phrase, hurt people truly do hurt people.
Yes.
Right? And I say this, shameless plug in 3, 2, 1. You'll find it in my masterclass. I say this all the time that we're not necessarily in these places like you're talking about at the thrown down the stairs because we're bad people. Many times we are there because we are headed somewhere one day where we will always need something that will never leave to remind us of what to never become.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So, well, tell us, what about this one? And this came in, so it's for a reason. There may be people, which is probably why one of the reasons I haven't written mine. I thought people will begin reading it, but it'll get too much. And they'll say, I can't do it. It's too close to my own. I'm not ready to pick that scab yet. My birth mother, in the first 10 minutes after I met her at age 32, she asked me, what was it like? And I started with the easy stuff. And she jumped up and screamed, covered her ears, and ran out of the room. I can't. Don't say anymore. I can't. And so I see that all the time, and it's what stops me from beginning that book. Talk about how you want people to understand getting through this if it can be a bit murky for them because of some places that they haven't healed in yet, how to hold on to the finish line because you're going to get what you came for. I promise you that. Talk about that.
Yeah. So what I tell people a lot of times, and I'll give you a quick short story for this. I had a woman who started reading my book, and she has a 3-year-old son. She got to the part where the splinters were put underneath my fingernails. I was 3. She put it down. But she goes, I know it's a triumph story, though, so I have to read it. And if you could endure that, I could surely read it. So I didn't know her. She was contacting me on IM on Facebook after starting it. She ended up finishing the book. She said it absolutely changed her life because she realized there was pieces of her heart and her soul that still had that trauma poison in it that she needed to remove to replace it with love. So she actually went back and started going to therapy. It gave her the courage to do it. So what I will tell people, I don't shy away from the trauma because God gifted me my trauma in my life to allow me to reach the unreachable. I've had so many people say, I felt like I was alone. I felt like nobody would understand. And I just held on to this anger like everybody was against me till I read your story and I thought, holy crap. If this dude can overcome that, then I can surely overcome what I've been through. And I have set out on a path to do it. And especially when I talk about forgiveness in my book, too. So, what I will tell you, the trauma makes the triumph so much sweeter, you guys. The trauma gave me the superpowers to live my life in a way that I could impact other people on their journey because I know what it's like to live in the darkness. I know what it's like to feel alone and like nobody cares and feel like you're a piece of trash thrown out like the garbage. Feel like you don't deserve success. You don't deserve happiness. And I know what it's like to embrace the fear and run through the change and the choice to make the healing journey that you're going to have to make that Lauren and I can't do for you. We can support you. We can't do it for you. And we know the abundant and the light that's waiting for you on the other side because there are millions of people who have done this. We're waiting for you to make the choice to step into your journey and your power and your abundance. So stop being a victim. Start being a warrior. Own the power of who you are because it's beautiful, baby.
I'm going to put this out there. I would love for you to consider coming and being a part of the next Power We Symposium. It's going to be on the road.
Thank you.
Where actually we just got called yesterday from Indianapolis to get on the call about coming there, but we got 3 other places in front of them, but it's close, so I'm probably going to pick them. But anyway, keep that in mind. You guys, there's Instagram where you can get over and check Walt McKinley Inspiration out. But if the book, you want to go here, scrolling along the bottom, www.waltmckinley.com. You can find all things Walt, including the book. So there's a lot more to this guy. I promised you that in the promo. Now you see. Get in there. Walt, I want to thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but you're welcome back anytime. Keep going, brother. Keep going. You've definitely poured into my spirit today, and I thank you so very much. And I thank all of you. Why? Because I tell you every day, I couldn't do it without you. I mean that. I wouldn't want to. Because why? You remind me every day that as long as I don't let anything lie and trick and convince me that I am alone, I can go and make it through everything. We fulfill the greatest promise known to man, the one that guarantees that when two or more of us comes together, when we got that heart set, mindset, soul set in alignment with what is greater than us and our divine purpose, magic, spiritual magic happens. And it just happened here today. Thank you so much, everybody. Get out there today. Have a wonderful end of summer holiday weekend, Labor Day weekend. Love up on your family. Let them love up on you. And I'll see you, God willing, back here live. There'll be shows tomorrow and Monday. There'll be, reruns. But I'll see you Tuesday live, so we can do this all over again. Meet me out front, won't you? On the front porch at 8 a.m. Central for your next episode of Bathrobe Moments. Thank you, Walt. Love you, man. Thank you so much.
Love you, brother.
Bye, you guys.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you mine. I'll show you mine. Oh, I'm standing right here holding up a sign, shamelessly displaying my state of mind.